Hello everybody and welcome to MVP League of MVP, and it's going to be myself, Zabi, out to take you all through to the adventure of tonight, and it is here at the Austrian Grand Prix. It's a season opener of the 5-lapper championship. So my very first time here as well. We'll definitely get to know I'll definitely introduce myself throughout the stream as well. Apologies everybody and to the driver especially. We're facing issues joining the session, so it was a late start than planned. It's of course going to be 6 rounds of the champion of 6 rounds tonight of 5 laps of racing. We're starting off here in Austria as we're getting drivers out on track already. There is Thomas in that Kick Sauber car as we're going to have everything ready up and just get started as soon as we had any information. We've got 12 drivers about there here tonight. So what happens is it's going to be one-shot qualifying, then a 5-lapper race. Then it's going to be a reverse grid based on championship standings. In-game reverse grid function will be tested before, must have been tested before, definitely. So we're seeing throughout these drivers, and apologies everybody for that late start once more, but hopefully all of you watching and everybody ready to get started for this stream. Really going to be enjoying this one and having fun throughout as we are in qualifying, of course, as we will now just be waiting for things to get started, getting to the end of the qualifying session. Meanwhile, there's a McLaren coming over the line, just about coming over the final corner now. David, it's going to be over the line and goes fastest of them all so far, and David sets the fastest lap of the session here in Austria in qualifying, and David's going to take pole position for the first qualifying session of the season. And now these are your qualifying sessions. Only 7 drivers actually have got a time to themselves. That was David ahead of everybody, 104.337. Then it was Ivek in that Red Bull, 104.8. Then came Techno in 105.2. Then, of course, it is Beard, 105. I mean, it's a huge name. Then comes Mamba, 106 in P5. Then comes Unbeaten in P6. Second slowest time. Then comes Thomas, 111, pretty slow. Then from Royal to Ham, nobody set a time at all. Pretty much they invalidated their laps. They couldn't set up a time on board. Definitely good luck to these drivers as we are about to get underway for a first race of the 5-lap championship. Again, we're definitely getting that information as well, that David is the reigning MVP champion, as well as a multiple championships he's won here in MVP, and definitely that explains how quick he was. 12 drivers in the session, and we are about to get started. It's going to be 5 lights, and we go racing here at the Austrian Grand Prix. The lights were held for a pretty long time. A pole sitter gets a very good start. Meanwhile, Avec and P2 gets a decent start as well. He's going to try and defend straight on that racing line. Meanwhile, drivers in the back trying to gain positions. Techno's got a very good start there. Then in P3, as we're going to try and get the information all together with these drivers. Of course, all of them being on the set of soft compound tyres at the start. Meanwhile, there's a Red Williams of Beards on the inside line into turn 3. There's going to be overtaking. Meanwhile, the 2 Kick Sauber drivers going to be making contact with each other there, as we have already a driver getting a penalty. Meanwhile, there is Mamba in that house, losing all these positions straight away, losing a lot of those positions. Then maybe not all going good for him at all. Meanwhile, our pole sitter has managed to keep their race late to themselves so far. Here they lead on lap 1 out of 5. David leads the Austrian Grand Prix so far to himself. Meanwhile, back in that Red Bull is right behind them with Thomas in P3. A good start for them, along with the Beards in P4. Meanwhile, Royal is gaining positions, and there's going to be a car in the back, and that's going to be Techno, as he's going to be losing all those positions, maybe making a mistake once more, and that's definitely not going to be a good sign for him. Of course, we're in here for 6 races throughout, and pretty much it's going to be a reverse grid for the rest of the races in the championship. So that pretty much would mean that pretty much whoever, wherever they finish in this one, would be having to set up a reverse grid. If David is able to win this one, he would be ending up in P2. Meanwhile, Vec is still in P2 with Thomas in P3, with Beards in that Williams in P4, with Royal in P5. Royal's going to be trying to have to defend from Ham, and into turn 4, Ham's going to go on the inside line and just goes ahead of that Red Bull, but he's going to go a little bit wide. He's going to make a little bit of mistake, and that's going to allow Royal in that Red Bull to come back at him and definitely have a chance. Meanwhile, Swamp is at the back as well in that Ferrari, along with Mike in the other Ferrari as well, P7 and 8, as Mike is a little bit behind those backs. Meanwhile, Unbeaten as well. What about Fam is in P10 with Techno in P11 and Mamba in P12 so far. Lap 2 out of 5 already, moving it towards lap 3, and there's going to be a problem, and there is going to be a mistake, and that is going to be from Unbeaten, as drivers getting fastest lap after one driver getting the fastest lap after the other. Meanwhile, Fam is going to be getting a penalty. He's got 6 seconds of time penalties, along with Techno with 2, and Unbeaten with 2 seconds of time penalties as well. Meanwhile, the Ferrari, and then 2-3 cars, and there's going to be contact. There's going to be contact, and Ham is going to be hammered almost by the Ferrari of Swamp there, as they're going side by side. Royal has to take the off-road, and he really has to go and take the run-off area at the moment. Royal currently losing out from that battle of 3 cars. Ham's going to go around the outside into turn 4. Royal almost goes in the back of these guys, and Swamp is going to have to lose out to Ham at that moment, as Swamp is going to come back at him now. On the inside line, they're going to be side by side, and that was very close, but Ham just manages to stay there and keep it to himself. This battle is a fiery one. The drivers, everybody outside the top 4 is on their own. There's multiple car battles. Of course, these 5-lapper races always provide you some great racing, all of them, and I'm sure we'll get comfortable throughout. So apologies if there's any mishaps or mispronunciations of names or anything throughout, because of course my very first time with these bunch of people, so just trying to get the information. Meanwhile, there is a switch for second place, and that is going to be Thomas getting ahead of the Red Bull and moving into second place. Meanwhile, there's going to be drivers at the back. Our leader is over. He was second ahead of the rest of the drivers right behind. Meanwhile, Vex in that Red Bull is going to be in pressure from their Williams as well now. On the inside line, he's going to send it into turn 4 and get ahead of that Red Bull. The Red Bull of Vex is going to be trying. He's going to try and get together and come back at him, but not so far. He's going to be there, and now this is pretty close. Meanwhile, we were thinking that it could be the leaders, but no, it's the other McLaren and the other Sauber are going side by side. It's going to be Fam around the outside. He's going to lose it. He's pretty much going to lose that rear end on his own. Have a little slide, but just about enough from the Sauber driver to keep it to himself and keep it out on track, or not only keeping out on track, but ahead of that Sauber as well. I mean, moving towards the front, watching all of these guys. Thomas in P2 at the moment, maintaining P2 so far. Meanwhile, moving back at the back, Ham ahead, or 1.1 seconds ahead of Swamp, and almost everybody's got a penalty apart from a few drivers now. Drivers at the back have got penalties, and then Ham, Swamp, and Royal, all of them have got penalties, 2-second time penalties, of course. Remember that Ham has gained 7 places, and especially Techno has lost a lot of places, along with Thomas has gained 5 as well. Beard has gained 1, and others are there. Meanwhile, we're going to be watching our race leader. He's actually within 1 second now, but of course, there won't be any DRS zone that could help others overtake him as it's the final lap. And David DP is going to be the man, the reigning champion of MVP. He's going to be just coming around the final corner now and win the first race of the season opener here in Austria, and wins the Austrian Grand Prix. Thomas comes in second place with Beards in P3, final step on that podium. Then Avec with those penalties in P4. Then comes Ham in P5 ahead of Swamp, who's in P6. Then comes Mike in P7, with Royal ending up in P8. Then comes Fam in P9 out on track, but Techno with those penalties gets ahead, along with Mamba then gets ahead as well, because Fam pretty much finished later, and then unbeaten towards the line, and that's going to be David DP ahead of everybody once more and wins in Austria, as we are now going to be moving to the second race of And there we go. That is, ladies and gentlemen, going to be your podium celebrations. And it's going to be David ahead of everyone, showing why David the man is the champion of the league so far and has been the champion. So definitely I think it's going to be interesting moving forward, and that's pretty interesting. Because I was about to say that where we're moving next to races. We of course have 6 races around here, so now there was only qualifying for this race. There won't be any qualifying session for the next one, as we're going to be moving to Spa and get to be going there and going to Spa to move there. And I don't think we should be having qualifying, but let's see whether we are going to be having qualifying or not. So we're just learning, of course. I mean, myself, I'm learning as well, getting all together. So lap 1, of course, was going to be qualifying. Lap 2 to 6 is going to be no qualifying, and 5 laps of racing. The weather's dynamic, I think, but clear skies pretty much. The damage is off eventually. It's a simulation damage off or reduce, but I'm sure we'll find things out as we move forward. Roy, of course, Royale, our owner of MvP, as we have a lot of people, and a pretty good show up in terms of 12 drivers in this one. I think first race of the season, you know, MvP coming back after a while, you know, just coming back at this one, you know, trying to do a revamp. So definitely that's going to be interesting to get this event, and hopefully this is almost like a rebuild, you know, coming back on tracks. 12 drivers for first race of the season feels pretty good, and I'm sure these drivers would be doing you know, getting better and better as if we move forward. I'm sure David is the reigning champion, but I think I'm sure there will be others winning this one as well. Not only him, but I'm sure he's gonna be getting there, as we are now gonna be moving towards race 2 very soon, as it was David winning and finishing in P1. I think that was then Thomas in P2, or it was taking one of the kick Saubers in P2, then came Beards in P3. So Beard, no, it's not Beard, it's Bread. Apologies about that, I was reading it Beard, but it's non-bread, so I only got that bread because it said non-bread. Basically, I know naan, so we naan in the Middle East. I don't know if it's any of the culture thing, but Middle Easterns love naan, that's for sure. So yeah, so bread, that's not beard. That's apologies about that. As I said, I'll only get to know things as we move forward, and we are about to find out. The grid is set, and let's get started. So the drivers would be waiting to begin, and now let's get started. Thomas is of course asking for points gone. The points were gone, of course. As I said, the reverse grid basically I think was going to be setting up by the game, but then basically it's manually done, and definitely it's going to be set up by drivers. And there is some music going on. I wonder if it's on track or somewhere, but we should be getting started. So all of you watching, do let me know how it is about the stream quality and everything around. I've actually improved from the past, which the quality used to be actually 720p, which is now and should be the base quality 1080p as we are waiting to get started. The lights were held for too long at the Austrian Grand Prix. We are about to get started, and there's the Aaron Alpha too long at Spa. It's going to be unbeaten on pole. Of course, finishing that late in last place and being the last driver in that championship. Around the outside, he sends it, and Fam is going to push both of them wide. Fam sent it around the outside, and of course, Ham, unbeaten, is going to have to fall back once more towards the bottom of the field, maybe preparing for another pole start. But in this one, he was kind of pushed in the way that the other driver made a move down the outside, but there was not enough space given from the other driver. I mean, more of a racing incident at the start in turn 1, but that's going to be interesting now. Meanwhile, David in P6 at the moment should have started in the last place, but Jay's gaining positions. Meanwhile, the Red Bull is going to be there as he's going to be on the inside line. David's going to be around the outside. Who's going to be coming on top as we are just waiting now with Techno and Royale fighting each other off, as Royale's just going to be ahead of the other two, and David's going to be now coming in into ahead of Techno, as Techno's currently, and all of them, almost so many of them, go wide there, along with Evek and Elk drivers at the front gaining positions, and David's going to be on the inside line, and he sends it ahead of Royale. And now the Kick Sauber is going to be trying to send up Roy as well, as we are moving forward. Just seeing this one, Swamp currently leads this Belgian Grand Prix ahead of Mamba in P2, with Bread in P3, with David in P4, with Techno in P5, Roy in P6, with Thomas in P7, Ham in P8, with Vec in P9. Then comes Mike in P10, with Fam in P11, with Unbeaten in P12. Unbeaten got a pole position start. Meanwhile, we're about to find out and get a fight for second place. There's going to be Bread on the inside line in the turn 1 of Mamba. He's going to send it on the inside line. Do they keep it clean though? That's a question of $1 million, and that definitely is clean between the two, but that's not done. They're not done yet. They're still going to be side by side, just heading towards Rouge and Redion as they go up to Rouge and Redion. That's going to be Bread ahead of the Haas driver, but we are about to find out how good is that going to be, because he's now got the DRS as well. That's a very good management by the Williams driver. He's got DRS along with that position out of that Haas as well, but the Haas driver is going to go around the outside. They're almost going to make contact, and the Williams driver has to make way for him, but no, he's not going to make way for him at all. It's going to be through and ahead of Mamba once more. Mamba's going to go around the outside one more time. He wants to go for it. Meanwhile, there is one driver is waiting at the back. That's going to be David. He's watching these guys fight it out, and he's really waiting in terms of try and go for a chance, try and have a chance at it, but he doesn't quite want to go for it, as he knows that he just needs to fight these guys. Oh, he almost wants to go for it there. That was close from David as well. He moved to the left, moved to the right to maybe try and go for it, as we're trying to find out maybe some battles at the back, as there is drivers pretty close to each other, but the drivers that are pretty close to each other are going to be these guys. That's going to be Bread, Mamba, and David, all three of them fighting for second place, as Techno and Thomas are going to be right behind them as well, not far away, along with Ham out there trying to fight for it, trying to go for it, and David has quite went for it already, as Mamba's going to be losing out to David, and that's going to be definitely helping Bread at the moment, because Bread's now got a chance to get ahead. Meanwhile, there's going to be Techno now getting ahead of Mamba as well. Mamba's losing out all those positions, and they're going to make contact, and that's going to be another collision of this race into turn 1, and definitely that gravel that was a new introduction last year, I think, was on the F1 game of the current Spa circuit, and look at that. Techno is having to fall back. Meanwhile, the other McLaren of Fam now, who was also involved in a collision at the race start, is going to be trying to get ahead of Techno at the end of that first sector. He's going to be through into turn 2, and David is now ahead of Bread as well, now, as he's now only 1.3 seconds behind Swamp, as Swamp is going to try and do everything to defend his race lead and probably keep that race lead to himself and get a win in the second round of the season. But is that going to be happening? We don't just know yet. The gap is just about, which was over 1.4 seconds, is already 1 second, and he's chopped off 4/10 already. It is all looking good for David at the moment, as David is on the way to try and get ahead, to try and get a second win in a row, and maybe get starting the championship on his way already, as David currently in P2. Meanwhile, there's drivers at the back taking positions, and that's going to be the Sauber, and Mike's going to go into the wall round the outside. Not quite sure what happened there, as they were maybe fighting each other off, and Mike there almost pretty much knocked off that boards round the outside, those brake boards. Meanwhile, these two are still fighting it out, and that's going to be Ham this time around. He was earlier unbeaten. He's currently out of the race and has DNF'd, so that means that's going to be another pole start for unbeaten, as he's currently going to be last in the championship. Oh, whoa, that was close then. There's going to be once more very close between the two. Ham and Fam, they're going to be still side by side. They're going to be will-to-will racing. They was almost, can't say they almost touched once more. That was going to be very close. Going up through Erosion, ready on. There's going to be Mike right behind them in P11, fighting for the final point scoring positions at this point and time of this race. As we are now going to be watching these guys, but let's move to the race lead, as David has taken the race lead on lap 4 out of 5 in a 5-lap race, starting on 12th place, last of the running cars, still taking the race lead on lap 4 out of 5, a lap earlier. And what a performance, and definitely what a driver David is looking like to be. Very fast and competitive, as the other McLaren gets a penalty. Meanwhile, Swamp is in P2, but it might just be in some pressure from Bread as well, as Thomas is in P4 at the moment. Mamba in P5. He was earlier fighting with Bread for P2, but lost it out. Lost a few positions actually in a row. Meanwhile, Roy and Avak, the other two Red Bulls, P6 and 7. Then comes Tekno in P8, the other kick Sauber. Then the final bottom 3 positions, that's going to be Ham, Fam and Mike there. That's going to be Team Red, Ham by Little and Miss Fam. Oh, but I don't know if that's a he or she, I don't know. Apologies about that if I pronounced you the wrong gender, but it says Miss Fam, so Miss Fam, it says Miss Fam, so maybe that's going to be a lady driving under that car, but we never know what's going to be under that helmet. Meanwhile, one man who knows what he needs to do under that helmet, that's going to be Bread, as he's going to get ahead of Swamp and drivers at the back. Techno's going to get ahead of Miss Fam as well, as Ham has been overtaken then, I guess. Pretty much maybe Miss Fam could have overtaken Ham there, as Ham is having difficulty keeping positions just about in that final point scoring position in P10, as lap 5 out of 5, and already look at that, David has gained over 7 tenths on Bread, or after he overtook Swamp, so Swamp has lost out to Bread, 9 tenths behind Thomas as well, so possibly in big pressure from Thomas as well. Swamp could be on a way to find it pretty hard for him. Mamba is in P5 at the moment. That's going to be him having to get it along, and there we go. We're just going to go to the race leader, and we are about to get it on the way. It's going to be David, who's going to make it 2 in a row and win here in Belgium as well, and win in Spa. He won in Austria. He's going to win in Spa. David takes 2 wins in a row and increase his championship lead. That's going to be Bread in P2 with Swamp in P3 on that podium, and a very well done job done by Thomas as well in P4, just outside the top 3 positions. That's 2 races over, and David still leads the championship, and that means he's going to have to start in the final position there, and there we go. That's going to be the McLaren of David ahead of everyone in P1. Another win for David. P1 that is, and towards the end maybe there was drivers gonna be. These are the podium celebrations, and Williams for Breads once more. The Ferrari this time on the podium as well of Swamp. there, and just like that, 2 races are over. David wins, increases his championship lead and his overall points to 50 or 52 if the fastest lap point is awarded. If not, that's going to be 50 points to David. That's going to be Bread in P2 with Swamp in P3. Thomas in P4 with Mamba completing out the top 5. Then came back in P6 with Techno in P7. Then comes Roy in P8 in the other Red Bull with Fam in P9 with Team Red Mike in P10 along with Ham in P11. Last of the running cars with Unbeaten having DNF out of this one. So we just should be moving to a brand new track and race 3 of the night, and that's going to be at the Netherlands, which is going to be, of course, Zandvoort. So not sure whether that's going to be reversed or a straight one. We'll find out definitely very soon, as we should be getting the grid setting up in a little while and should be getting started in no time. And I hope you all are enjoying this section all around. And if you're new around here, make sure to subscribe, subscribe, and share this stream with your racing fans, with your racing friends, and everybody. And if you're new around here, make sure to follow. If you don't know me, my name is Zabi, as I was saying. Maybe get time myself, introduce myself. So I'm a racing commentator, a sim racing commentator. I've been commentating for about 2 years now, as I just have my monitor screen disappear for a few seconds. There we go, it's back. Wouldn't have wanted for it to have any problems, considering how many problems we had. So I used to be currently on PlayStation. I used to be on PC. Currently, actually switched just about to PlayStation or to PS5 very soon. And now we have the game screen on PlayStation, but the stream from PC with the help of a capture card. So I hope you're all going to be watching, enjoying. So if you're interested in more of my work, head over to Twitch Zabion Mike or Instagram Zabion Mike 3 or my YouTube channel Zabion Mike as well to get more idea about me. And make sure if you want to reach me out for future races or for any of your league you need commentary, the details would be in the description of the stream. You can reach me out there and we can talk about that. You can see my other socials on your screen as well, and we're about to get started. Hope you all watching have enjoyed it. Actually, usually used to doing, of course, either 25% or 50% race distances, but 5 lapper one is an interesting one. I think this is a nice one, nice championship to definitely bring the league back and really sort of rebuilding all that was shut down. So definitely coming back, and I think efforts put up by Roy, our owner, and Mike, managing all the stuff. So definitely would be trying to bring this back to the top. And I'm sure streaming and bringing the entertainment in front of all of your screens would be an amazing one as well. If you have any feedback, make sure to comment down or email to the given email in the description for future improvements and information. There we go, we should be actually having the grid set up and getting started in a little bit as we're waiting for this one. As first race, first 2 races, of course, drivers would be on the way. The drivers, I mean, we saw a few incidents actually, so I think would be pretty interesting in terms of, you know, getting things on. As I was talking about, you know, 5 laps, it's about, you know, give or take. You don't have a lot of you know, time to back out. So I think any time you get, even as a driver, you know, if you are involved in in an incident, or, you know, somebody says they dive on me aggressively, I mean, 5 lap races, that's pretty much what you're gonna expect. You know, these are not longer races. You know, 35% or 50%. That's, you know, gonna give you a lot of time in terms of, you know, even if you make a mistake, or you know, give you time to be patient. But in a situation like this, in races like these, you probably don't have a lot of time, and 5 laps pretty much just over by the time you even get. If you have an incident, you go off track. By the time you come back on track, the race is already half done. So definitely, I think you get what I mean. So that's going to be a big one. Still waiting on things, but we should be getting started in no time. So probably the grid is setting up, of course, but I think it's being done manually. That's why it's going to be taking a little bit longer than usual, of course, because the points were done. You know, points were wind up. Because of that, you have to probably do it manually, which is going to be the reason that it's taking a little while than usual. So we should be getting started. I think probably had the game done, it would have been just a little bit better, but definitely that's not the case, and that is not what we were hoping for. But no issues, no worries, and there we go. We should be getting started now. Things should be ready, and in no time we'd be on the way, and only in 15 seconds time we should well be on the way to get started and lights out in Netherlands. Okay, apologies about that. And there we go. We have the information about the championship as well. David currently leads, so he should be starting last at the moment. It's unbeaten with 0 points, so he should be in P1 with Fam in P2 on the grid. And Mamba should be P3 with Techno in P4. Okay, Technology shouldn't be in P4. The points are here and there. The drivers are not in order, so 0 points. At least we know one thing, that is going to be unbeaten, and unbeaten is going to be P1. Others we don't quite know. Definitely we know one thing. Unbeaten is going to be P1, and David's going to be last place, and George I think is in P3. Not quite sure who's George, which of course we should be getting the name later on. But there we go, as we are getting started, and lights out for the Dutch Grand Prix. As we're getting started, the two RB start at the front and ahead of everyone in P1 and 2 on that front row. A very good start for our Polster this time around, and we're hoping that nobody gets a rear in this race. Meanwhile, Fab is going to be through, and unbeaten one more time has to be put in the wall for 2 races in a row. He starts on pole and has to be put in the wall into the barriers by some of those drivers there. Not quite sure whether he went on his own or there was some drivers, but Unbeaten again gets beaten by everybody and falls back into P11, and Mike is in P12 as well, falling towards the back as Fam now leads here in the Dutch, and Ham is going to be fighting out. Ham's going to try and fight out for his teammate. Meanwhile, Roy is going to be through on the outside, and Roy's going to spin. Roy's going to have a little slide. He ghosted out, and that allowed Ham to be through, as Ham is now through into P2, where there's a driver's retiring, and that is Unbeaten once more retiring, and that's going to be 2 retirements in a row now for the RB driver, as Ham's lost out that race lead as well to Fam, who's currently in 7 tenths ahead. The DRS, of course, is going to be enabled at the end of this lap, as the drivers would get the DRS. Of course, it's not reverse, it's not the reverse circuit, it's a normal circuit that we have usually. Meanwhile, Roy is going to be in P3. Swamp, our last race's podium finisher, in P4 at the moment. David already in P5 once more, already on lap 2 and already into P5, and his mission to move forward completely continues on. He's a reigning champion, he's a defending champion, and he's a multiple champion of MVP. Then comes Mamba in P6 with Techno in P7. Then comes Bread at the moment in P8 after scoring a few points. I think that should be George, actually would be Bread, I think. And that's going to be Royal now. Roy having to lose out. Again, he's almost going to lose it out there. And he's now going to lose to Thomas as well. Thomas is going to get ahead of Roy there in that Red Bull. Both Red Bulls just about inside the points in P9 and 10. As our race leader still stays on Fam. I think it was Fam at the start of the previous race as well, bumping into Unbeaten, and not quite sure what happened at this one, but Unbeaten, I'm sure, would not be happy about that, as now Swamp is going to be in P3, and there's going to be David already ahead of Swamp on that DRS main straight, and before they could get into that braking zone, David is through into P3 already. And the podium positions have been taken, and there's going to be Roy, and Roy is going to be out of this race, and he's retired out of the Dutch Grand Prix, and I think understandably so, as we saw him have a few incidents, or probably either had a spin earlier on, or made a mistake once more and pretty much lost out all those positions and progress. So just trying to do that. Zavak is in P9 and Mike in P10, trying to get as many points as he can. Thomas in P8 with Bread in P9 at the moment, with Techno in P6, with Mamba in P5, Swamp in P4 at the moment, just behind David at the moment. David's currently P3, already on lap 2, and now there is going to be Ham already right behind the McLaren. He's got one McLaren behind him and ahead, and one is ahead of him. That's going to be a McLaren sandwich for the 2, as Bread's going to be getting ahead along with the Red Bull as well. But we should be seeing a new race leader, and that's going to be Ham getting ahead of Fam. Fam's going to try and defend and go on the inside line, and they're already going to be through, and that's not going to be easy for Ham. They're still going to be side by side. Fam did not back out of it. They're still going to be side by side, and Fam just about keeps it to himself and maintains the race lead to himself. They went side by side, and pretty much for a moment, how close they were, could have thought that Ham's going to be linked on the brakes, but no, that was a brave into turn 1 from Fam as well. It's not a heavy braking zone, it's more like, you just have to slow down enough and then almost take it like a hairpin. So that was a very well job done by Fam as well. That might be a chance for a McLaren 1-2, but the gap is 1.8 seconds. They're both over 1 second, almost 2 seconds ahead of David, and we might just be about to see a new race winner other than David. And Brett's going to go wide. Brett's going to go into the gravel as he made a move on the inside line, but he went into the gravel, and there's going to be another driver coming around the outside of him as well, as Thomas could, for a moment, could have thought he's going to be overtaking him, but no. But one man who could think that he's going to be overtaken this time around, yes, he will be, before they could go even side by side. Ham's going to be through into the race lead, and Ham now leads the Dutch Grand Prix, but he's going to come back at him. Fam's going to come back at him. Definitely Fam's not going to have it easy on him at all. Almost bumps into the rear of his car. That could have been pretty nasty, as David's now through and ahead of Swamp. He's already ahead of Swamp for a few laps now, as Mamba's in P5 just behind the Ferrari. Thomas right behind him, along with Brett. He's trying to make moves, but Brett lost it out. He tried and go on that last driver and lost out to Thomas as well. The one Red Bull out, the other one in P8. Then Techno in P9 with Mike. Team Red in last place of the running cars. Our race leader has kept it on final lap of the Grand Prix, but one more chance there is going to be. Are we about to find out whether Pham goes for it or not? He has a proper chance to win the Grand Prix and register his name on race winners of this season opener here of the 5-lap championship. Not this time around. They've still got the final corner to go though. There could be information. There could be a chance, and Pham's going to go wide. Pham's going to run super wide. That might allow David to come through, but that's going to be Ham coming around the final corner, just finish line now, and win the Dutch Grand Prix. First driver that's not David to win the season opening event. It's Pham in P2, a podium, and a double podium for the McLarens as it's P3 for David. Then Swamp in P4 with Mamba in P5, with Thomas in P6 as the rest of the grid follows. And then once again, what a race by these drivers, and a great fight by these drivers for the race lead as well. And this time it was the one that David's fast racing was not enough, and that's gonna be Ham ahead of everybody and win in that Visa Cash App RB with the 2 Red Bulls. Sorry, the 2 McLarens on that podium. These are your race results. Then we had the top 5 with Ham, Pham, David, Swamp and Mamba. Then comes Thomas in P6 with Bread in P7. Then comes Weck in that Red Bull. Then came Techno in P9 with Michael in P5 at the moment. Started P5, he fall back then, scoring 1 point. And then the final 2 of Roy and Unbeaten DNF'd out and retired out of the Grand Prix. This was surely a great one. I think definitely battles and everything, even a battle for the lead was interesting, and I think hope you're all watching really. I didn't enjoy this one because this was a pretty good one. I think without a doubt this one seemed pretty interesting. This race fighting for the lead as we should be now moving towards the final race. The 4th race of the event. We've 3 done, 3 more to go, and that's going to be Azerbaijan on the streets of Baku. That's going to be a very interesting one. The walls are going to be super close than we had at any of the races so far, and that's going to be pretty interesting because walls closer to the track means cars closer to the walls, and drivers into the walls might well be the case, because we never know. This driver's leaving, I guess. There were 12 of them. 3 of them are out. And pretty much, yep. Oh, okay. So both RB drivers are out, along with Mamba. So not quite sure what happened, but all 3 of them are out. So that's it then. Everybody, 3 races are done. Austria, Spa, and Netherlands. David still leads by about 65 points, I think. 25 to is 40 points total, as we were in Austria round 1, Spa round 2, with Netherlands in round 3. Then we're round 3. Then we're going to be in Baku for round 4. Then it's going to be the 2 remaining rounds with China and Abu Dhabi. Those guys left, maybe not wanting to do race anymore. 3 races, of course. I mean, 3 races are a lot, so maybe having to rest out or pull out of that one. But we will just be waiting for the grid to get set up and for us to get started and for us to begin for this amazing race at the Azerbaijan GP. We had a very good race at Zandvoort and pretty good ones at Austria and Spa as well. So far the best race, and we definitely don't want to lose the session earlier. We actually had a problem starting, getting into the session as well, which apparently was the reason that we started a little bit later. So that's interesting, I think. So looking at the points of the drivers, it's 50 for 50 for David, 24 for Thomas. Before this round, before the round, after round 2, these are the standings. Then it was of course 24 for Thomas, 36 for George. Vecchi was on 16 with Hamby on no points. Then Sundor on 16 points. Not quite sure who that is, but interesting to know. Then it should be Mike on 12 points with Royan on 8 points, Techno on 12, and Mamba on 20, Fam on 4 with Unbeaten on 0 points. Of course, Mamba almost taking that. Fam almost taking that win. In the end, just about lost it towards the very ending moments of that. So we're just waiting for the grid to get set up, and we would be getting started. There's 3 rounds in out of the 6 rounds initially planned for the night. So eventually, I think it should have been done by the game, the grid, but eventually, because of the points disappearing, had to be done manually. But the grid is now set up, and we should be getting started for the race, and we'll be getting into round 4 of the 6 rounds plan, and we're heading to Azerbaijan, to the streets of Baku. That should be nothing but an excellent experience of racing, and we would be finding out about how good these drivers are about keeping the cars away from the walls, not getting the car any closer to the walls or crashing out on this one. Won't be surprised if there is a lot more crashers than finishers in this race, but still, I think this is not Monaco, so Monaco's a lot first. So this is still a better track, and definitely a chance that the drivers can finish. All of them can finish. I don't think all of them will finish though, but still, all of them can, and definitely not that hard. That's for sure. As we are just waiting, drivers, of course, would just be getting their setups ready, their cars ready, and they should be ready now. Even if they are not, the lights are out and they have to go racing. That's going to be Roy ahead of everyone, the last place driver in the championship, having to start on pole and taking on in P2. There's going to be drivers in the back, and David already trying to gain positions, getting ahead of Swamp, and Beards, the Bread's there, not starting at the front at all. Bread's going to go send it on the inside line there. That was pretty close. And there's going to be drivers spinning around, and there's going to be Thomas and the other Ferrari, one of the Ferraris, into the walls. That's going to be very close. One more time, it's going to be Swamp and Thomas on the inside line. He's going to send it and just about stay out of it, as Thomas is going to hit the wall. I think damage is either off or very reduced. That doesn't give them a lot of damage. And that's going to be Ferrari. out of that, and I think it's evening time or something. That it looks like pretty almost night time there. That it's not sunny at all, and visibility might be a little bit of a problem, but for these drivers, definitely not a lot of it, but some of it there. Meanwhile, Breads is in P5. Our race leader Roy currently leads it. Well, this one, then pretty much the first driver to really lead it after the reverse grids have started. But no, Techno says they'll say no more. As it's going to be side by side, almost clipping him there, and he's now almost going to get clipped by Fam. Fam's going to send it on the inside line. They're definitely going to be hitting the wall, one of them, and that's going to be Techno hitting the wall. But them. Lucky enough, there's no damage enabled. That's going to be now both of them still going side by side. I think fair play. There is no damage enabled because of 5 lappers, of course. Everybody knows that nobody's waiting to go to really have any patience at all. So any bumps to the walls are not going to be that effective at all. As it's going to be drivers, and they're going to be side by side. And Fam takes the lead of the Azerbaijan Grand Prix already on lap 1. But he might just be having to give up on that. He's going to have to defend the inside line, but there's going to be drivers on the outside. Oh no, he defends it very nicely done. There were going to be drivers on the outside. Meanwhile, Brett's going to be at the back as well, trying to get ahead of most of them. But no, David is currently in P6. David is having it pretty hard and not quite easy since the last 2 races, as Brett's now going to get ahead of the Red Bull and into P4. Brett's going to have to fight once more. Meanwhile, there's going to be a fight between Mr. Fam and Techno if they're race late one more time. Techno's going to put him into the wall. Oh, in fact, Mr. Fam's going to put him into the wall. Miss Fam is going to put him into the wall. That is a interesting one. Is now Techno's hit him straight away. That was an interesting one. I think Miss Fam spun there, and definitely that must have been nothing but a sweet revenge from Techno there, because he was simply put in the wall, and he puts him in the wall as well. He does exactly what was done to him. And it's definitely heating up already. Race 4 out of 6, and battle is heating up. Things are heating up already. As a race leader now, Roy gets back to the race lead, as the top 2 in that race are having problems, and the collision with Fam. Oh, he gets a penalty. One of them, Mr. Fam, has gotten a penalty for a collision. Maybe another one caused, because he didn't get one for the collision earlier. Brett's now going to be there, as Roy's going to be in big pressure from Brett to save his race lead, which I don't think will be saved, or he won't be doing enough to saving it at all. That's going to be now Brett's trying to get ahead of Royale there, as Royale's going to be around the outside. Meanwhile, the other Red Bull's going to be through as well on the inside line of Eck. They're going to be 3 wide going into turn 1, and almost become 4 wide going into turn 1, but that's going to be Brett on the inside line. Meanwhile, the McLaren of David going to the back of that Red Bull, and is going to get ahead of that Red Bull now. At the end of turn 3, that was pretty close. Turn 2, I shall say. And David is now in a P2. For a few moments we thought David's having it hard, but he's not anymore. Meanwhile, Fam and Mike are fighting each other off. Currently in P8 and 9 at the moment. They're fighting each other off as well. There's fighting at the front, and there's fighting at the back, as these two are going to be having to give it everything. Mr. Fam and Team Mike. Oh, that was going to be great. That's not Team Mike, but that's Team Red. Fam's going to hit the wall. Fam's going to hit the wall on the outside. Thomas is getting ahead of Swamp. Thomas has gotten ahead of Swamp, and Swam is going to be trying to get ahead of Thomas once more as they head into the castle section now. He's tagged. He just got tagged. Not quite sure whether he hit the wall or something else happened, but definitely was tagged. And our race leader still currently keeps it to themselves, and I think Roy might have lost out a little bit, a little slide on the exit there, and that's going to allow his teammate to get closer, and his teammate to be there and to have a chance to attack him once more, as there's going to be drivers, and there's going to be a slide from Roy once more. He still keeps it to himself, not separating a lot, as David is now going to be in on the way to put pressure on Brett's. Brett's going to now have to defend his race lead, but Thomas might well be on his way to get back to the top step of the podium and return to the winning ways, as with the help of that rear wing opening, nobody's going to be on the way to stop Thomas. Meanwhile, we've got disabled. Apologies about that, because we came into this race but did not enable these little information. Of course, all these drivers are going to be on a set of medium compound tires, and penalties are only to Fam at the moment on 2 seconds. and we are on. The telemetries are as there's going to be drivers, and Mike now is into the wall. Not quite sure whether he was put into the wall by Fam or something. He made his own mistake, and there's going to be a Red Bull, and there's a lot of drivers hitting the wall. There's no damage, of course. Pretty much damage might just be off. Would be the reason that so pretty much those drivers who retired didn't crash out then, because if the damage is off, then they would have to be retiring in the pits then on their own. So probably just falling too far behind, deciding to retire lap 4 out of 5. David has already taken his race lead, but remember that the gap currently is 7/10, but if that gap is still within 1 second at that DRS connection point, he's going to have it hard. He's going to have it pretty difficult for him to defend that race lead, and I think that's not going to be easy for David at all. He's got Breads, who's a very decent, very good, fast driver as well. Maybe not as fast as David, but still pretty fast enough. And definitely that's going to give him the chance and an improvement to going forward as we're moving to this one. That's going to be David in P1, still taking out the gap now, 9/10, and the DRS is still going to be there, and David's got that 40% battery to defend his lead, but I don't think he's going to need it at all towards the end, because Brett hasn't got any energy left at all. He's got that DRS but not enough energy, and one man who's got enough is going to be Thomas, who's going to go and get ahead of Roy and through into P5. Roy's going to have to give up on that position and fall back to P6, lap 5 out of 5, and we are just getting towards the end of this Grand Prix. Of course, we've got a whole lap to get through, and a whole lap that's gonna be remaining. Of course, 2 more laps, 2 more races after this one are gonna be, one's gonna be China, the other's gonna be Abu Dhabi to end and already we're seeing drivers hitting the wall, making contact. The race is going a little bit slower, but just a final lap, and there could be a time. The gap is already 1.1 second, and I think one man Brett needs at the moment is to just charge his battery, which he hasn't got at all. Meanwhile, David has got his battery already up to defend everything he needs, because even if he does get that DRS, Brett is not going to have that energy. He's not going to have that have enough to keep it. I mean, he's having to use that to even stay within close range of David, and I think David knows it. He's done it very nicely, and he's done a very good job in terms of trying to keep it to himself. As we're going to move forward now, 1.7 seconds the gap already. David, the man who's won 2 out of the 3 races, is going to win 3 out of the 4 races of the night tonight, and is going to take victory in Azerbaijan, in Baku, and that's going to be a photo finish to the line between Iwak and Swamp. That's going to be P3 for the Red Bull and P4 for the Ferrari, with Thomas in P5 and Techno in P6, with Royal in P7, then comes Swamp in P8. With Mike just now over the line in P9. Last of the running cards, and David makes it another win for himself. And once more, he goes from last to first. And it was only 5 laps that were needed for him, and he did it 3 times out of the 4 races that we have done so far. And what a performance! I mean, he's super well done by David. And once more, these are your podium celebration. And Breads, what a performance from Breads there, I think. Great job done by himself. I think he's really got it. I mean, he's still in P2, and he's still finishing on the podium. I think he's pretty much finished on the podium in every single race then. He's done a very good job as well. Not to forget David on that top step. There's been almost every other race, and Brett's been on in P1. And these are your results for the Azerbaijan GP and race 4 out of 6 for the night. David wins ahead of Brett's in P2, with the back in P3. First podium for the Red Bulls, I think, or Royale currently in P7, finished earlier. Swamp in P4. They're finished in almost super close to each other to the line. Then comes Thomas in P5 with Techno in P7. Then come Royale in P7 with Mr. Fam and Mike completing the 9-car grid in P8 and 9. And we should be moving towards race 5 now, and that race 5 is going to be China, the second last race of the event. And that track list stays, and already one more driver has left. So that's interesting, starting with 12 of them. 4 of them have now left, but we still got 8 drivers. And let's give it everything, and let's make it an absolute amazing one. 2 more races, I think very good race. I'd say Holland had to be one of my favorite. This one was pretty good as well. I think China is going to be a nice one. And Abu Dhabi is going to be a pretty good one as well. Okay, there we go. So we should have Thomas back in. They had a problem, and they should be back out on track. The team's just trying to fix their car, and as long as that Tauber of Thomas is going to be fixed after a trip to the walls of Baku, we should be good to go, as the grid is getting set up, and there should be no problem. Interesting, so that famous Hamilton. Oh, famous Hamilton, maybe Ham is Hamilton, but they're not here tonight, here in the session so far, and we're just going to wait for the grid to set up and for us to go into race 5 of the night. And we've had some pretty good racing, no doubt about that, and some pretty deep, pretty amazing racing throughout the Grand Prix, and throughout the event, I think well done by these drivers, all of them racing pretty nicely. And David the Man has taken 3 out of the 4 races we've had, and finished on the podium in all of them. And I hope you all watching have enjoyed the action so far, as we are getting Thomas back in, as we're getting the grid set up as well. Thomas is in, the car is fixed and ready to go racing. So we should be going racing in a few moments time. Only the last 2 races now remain in the Grand Prix, in the event, and first event returning to racing a League of MVP, and just trying to make this a successful event, trying to make this an amazing event and really make it an event of the night. And there we go, the grid is set, and we should be going into the second last race for tonight. And we will be on our way to get started. We're just waiting for drivers to ready up. Maybe drivers are waiting for something at this point, but we should be on our way in no time, as we have everybody ready up. We would be on our way, and we'll be on our way for the Chinese Grand Prix. And I think one man would be starting first, and that might just be Mike at this point, considering all these drivers have got pretty good points, and Mike maybe, I don't know, it could be tight between Roy or Mike, the 2 heads of this league. Of course, Roy is the owner, and Mike is pretty much the manager, managing everything and managing things out. Okay, we're waiting up at the moment. So currently David leads the championship with 90 points to their name. Then it is the man in second place, George. Assuming that would be Bread in P2 with 57 points to their name. Then comes Thomas with 48 points. That is pretty good points for them. Then it's Cinderay with 40. Should be, I think, it's not taken. Vecchi in P2. Piece, that's going to be actually 1, 2, 3, 4, P5 of the championship as we're just about to get started. We'll definitely pronounce that throughout the race. It's going to be lights out and we go racing out of the Chinese Grand Prix and we are underway. Royal's going to be on pole one more time just with Mike in P2. Mike's losing out already. Mike's getting eaten up at the race start. Meanwhile, there's a McLaren of the Red Bull over back at the back is having to go into the wall. That's going to be... Him going into the wall at the race start. I'm not quite sure what happened. Meanwhile, the race leader Fam has taken that race lead one more time, and George is into P2 already with Roy in P3, Swamp in P4, and David already in P5 at the race start. In no time, with Thomas in P6 and Techno in P7, Mike in P8, and P9 comes Wacky as Fam still leading ahead of Brad's. Brad should be on the way, I think. Brad's would just want one thing, and that would be that somebody holds up David for a little bit longer, because David is the challenge that everybody wants to beat, and Brett was surely denied that win at Baku by David's masterclass, and David already into P2 and almost on his way, and definitely Chinese GP far away from walls, but not far away from David, as Swamp is going to be on the way to try and defend from David there. David's going to not even use his ERS. In fact, Swamp is going to be using his ERS, but that's going to be an interesting thing to know at the moment, as we're going to have David maybe go down the inside line. He doesn't quite go for it. Has to back out. He's becoming patient with it. Meanwhile, one man who might not be patient with it is going to be George. Bread in P2, and that Williams is going to be on the way to try and get ahead of Fam. Hamilton has found himself in quite a lot of incidents since race 2. Ooh, that's going to be what a move on the inside line. They almost made contact, but just keep it out there. In Azerbaijan, he was in a few incidents from Spa, Holland, and now China. Meanwhile, Mike has made up a place and ahead of that Red Bull. The Red Bull car, the Red Bull driver made a mistake pretty much, or involved in an incident earlier at the race start. Was a problematic. Lap 2 out of 5. Fam still leads, then Brett's not unable to get ahead. Meanwhile, one man who's still able to defend his position is going to be Mike, but no, is he going to be unable to defend this position? Not quite though. That's going to be the Red Bull ahead of the Ferrari of Mike, and Mike's going to lose out his position in into P9 before even they're around the DRS zone at all. As we're in P6 and 7, meanwhile David's going to have to fight, and David's already into P3 and ahead of Swamp before that DRS zone, but Swamp's actually going to get that DRS. McLaren's not going to get that DRS. He's going to try and use that DRS. In fact, he is going to get that DRS. Both of them are going to be getting that DRS on the inside line. Swamp's going to try and send it into the braking zone, but no. He can't quite do it. Meanwhile, Breads can't quite do it as well, but he might just try and do it now. Round the outside, but into the final corner. He just finds his way enough. Fam keeps it to himself and take that lead. Returns that lead to himself. Lap 3 out of 5. On our way, Fam is going to be in P1. That's going to be Breads in P2. He's been the most consistent driver, I have to say. Fam doing a very good job as well. In the previous race, I believe, a double McLaren podium it was. It was. I mean, apologies if I'm getting the results wrong, but obviously a lot of races, a lot of results. So I definitely remember seeing 2 McLarens on the podium, on one of the podiums there, but don't quite remember if they were there or there on the in the last races. No, but one man who's currently still leading. Is interesting that Breads hasn't quite been able to get through on him at all. Like, Fam's managed to keep his race lead. He's managed to keep the lead to himself. Since lap 1, he was snatched from lap 1, and he took that lead from lap 1, and still leading this race so far by 7/10 and 1.3 seconds the gap to David, to Bread. So that might just be some good news for Breads though, but it depends whether Breads is even able to get ahead of Fam. In one place he needs to get ahead of Fam, but on the other he needs to defend from the challenge of David there. There's going to be Roy around the outside, and that's going to be Swamp going super wide. He's going to super wide. He's almost going to leave out Shanghai there as he went over the white lines and ran pretty wide. That's going to allow Roy to get back into P4. There's going to be drivers at the front trying to get it on, but no, David 1.8 seconds, and he did all of that in Baku as well pretty early, but at the moment Roy now in brake pressure from Sam. Once more, they're almost going to make contact. They indeed will make contact then. But oh, just about keeping it safe, as Roy is not going to run wide at all. Meanwhile, Swamp is going to run wide. In fact, he's going to be in big pressure by the two Sauber cars there. Both of them are going to be on the attack to the Ferrari of Swamp there. It's going to be Thomas and it's going to be Techno. But then we're going to try and go around the outside. Almost goes into the back of his teammate, does Techno. But try and get ahead of that Ferrari, but just about keeps it to himself, does Swamp. And he's going to be staying ahead of himself. Going to stay ahead of the two Sauber cars. Meanwhile, the two McLarens are going to be very close now. And the David's challenge of 1 second could be on. I think Bread's dream of a victory might be fading away as he's pretty much within half a second, within 5/10 of Fam, and a proper opportunity to overtake with the help of that DRS. But now David's on the similar part as well. David on the similar thing. Round the outside one more time. David Breads now knows that he has to overtake and he needs to get ahead, but is he going to get ahead though? Not quite sure this time. He doesn't quite find himself to get ahead, but one man who needs to get ahead still doesn't find himself getting a chance, but this time around he's going to go around the outside and ahead of Fam, but no, Fam's not going to leave him at all. We've seen throughout that Fam is a warrior sprint and he does not want to back out at all, even if he loses that position. They're going to make contact, but still Brad is going to get ahead and he's going to lead the Chinese Grand Prix and take the lead on lap 5 out of 5, but that should be anybody's game still. David is within half a second along with Fam and Breads as well. The victory could be anyone's inside the top 3. You know, there's drivers at the back as well, but we're just focusing on the battle between the race leaders. That's gonna be it now. David's through. David's now through, and as I said before, Bread always tries his best, always does everything he can, but in the end one man ends up being there, and one man, that is David Depay, always finds himself around for that race late, but the gap is over 9/10, and now George is already using their ERS. Meanwhile, David has got that over 50% along with that DRS. He's going to find it pretty easy, but is that going to be enough? Meanwhile, Techno's getting ahead of Roy as well, as Roy is going to be... And meanwhile, his team is going to have to defend from Mike, but one man who has just about defended might well be on the way, as we are about to find out. Still got the final corner to go, though. Could still be anybody's game, but for the first time this round, it's going to be Bread taking victory and wins round 5 out of 6 rounds for the night. And Bread takes victory at the Chinese Grand Prix and wins in Shanghai. It's going to be another double McLaren podium with David in P2, with Fam in P3 for leading out most of the race. Then comes Swamp in P4 with the two Saubers in P5 and 6, then followed up by the two Red Bulls and the Ferrari of Mike. And what a race that is. That is almost about to be to the end of the race, and we are about to go to the final round of this one. And finally, George it is. George for the first time at the top of the podium, and he finally gets to the top step after fighting for it throughout the race and throughout the evening. He does the job this time and takes the victory in China, and we've now only got the final round to go in Abu Dhabi. Techno. Then comes the two Red Bulls, both of them in P7 and 8, Royal and Vec. Then comes Mike, Team Red in P9. And that Ferrari last of the running cars. And now we only got the final race of the night and final race of Event 1 and season opener for League of MVP. Returning to the track, returning to the limelight. And you have to say, this had to be a light that nobody wants to miss out. And there we go. These are the championship points for the final round of the season. That's going to be Roy in last place, but David leads ahead of everyone in P1, 108 points. Then P2 for George with 82. Finished, okay, so he just finished in round 3, finished he scored 6 points. And for out of 4 or 5, he's finished 4 on the podium. George in P2 with 82 points. Then comes Thomas in P3 with 58 points. Then it's Sundray in... might be a Vec, actually. Yeah, might be a Vec. In 43 points in P4, P5. Vec is actually the other one, so I'm not quite sure who's that. Just a bit confusing, but Vec is in P5 with 35 points to their name. That's going to be Fam in P6 with 35 points. Vec had 43, so 26 for Techno. Then comes Mike with 17 points, and then Roy it is with 20 points to their name. So Mike started in the front row in the previous race. Should be on pole position as the grid is now set up, and we are going to be underway for the final race of the season, and not final race of the season, but final race of the night, final round of it as the final round of the Event 1 and season opener with MVP. Hope you all watching really enjoyed myself being on the mic. Of course, race 1, I mean, expect everything to get better because, of course, different formats. Obviously, you could be used to doing things, but obviously, 5 lappers, one 5-lapper is a different thing, but multiple of them is a different thing. I'm sure we're only to get better and only to get better throughout the season. So expect that, and good one for this one as we just got the final race now. Definitely make this one an absolute amazing one, and the one to cheer for, and the one that the drivers would want to be cheered as well. It's going to be Mike in P1 and Roy in P2, the two drivers on that front row for this one. We're just now waiting for the final. And there we go, the drivers are ready in the final race of the night, race 6 out of 6 for season opener here at League of MVP. That's going to be Mike leading up ahead of everyone into pole position. And what a start for Roy, what a start from P2 as they're going to head into turn 2. That's going to be Techno in P2 getting ahead of Mike. Meanwhile, Fam's going to be through P2. Mike's going to lose out again one more time. Mike's having to lose out positions at the race start. He's having a difficult race start again one more time. Now drivers at the back. The Red Bull of Avec is going to be there, and Royal now having a fight for it, and Fam is going to try and get through. He's going to try and get into that race lead, and we've had our monitor screen disappear as soon as that's back. We're currently not seeing anything, but I'm hoping that we're going to be seeing that. We're definitely seeing as Fam and Techno going to have to fight for it. Is Fam going to go on the inside line? He sends it into the chicane, and they're going to make contact there. He sent it very late. He's going to go, and what a bump that was. He ate a huge bump there. Jump there, and definitely that was from the sausage curb on the exit there, and he went on that. Probably no damage. If there's no damage, that's not going to be. If there was simulation damage, there's the underbody was going to be done, but probably no damage. Meanwhile, the two Red Bulls, both of them inside the top 4 in P3 and 4, as Fam's going to take that lead already. He's done pretty aggressive driving, but very good job done by Techno so far. Fam trying to do everything he can. He's done it as well. Meanwhile, David trying to move forward, but Royale having to back out as he's falling to the back once more in P6 now. Started on that front row, had a very good start as well. Took that lead in turn 1, but lost out very quickly. Now comes Brett in P7, finally a win after 4 consecutive tries. He did it on the 5th one. Can he do it one more time and make it 2 wins in a row? Meanwhile, Swamp is going to be in P8. That's going to be his teammate in P9 in the final points position, final position of the running cars. Lap 2 out of 5. There's going to be a chance for Swamp to get ahead, but there's also going to be a chance for Breds to get ahead as well, and he's already going to be getting ahead of Roy there, as Roy's going to be in big pressure from that Williams there. They're going to be side by side. The DRS is to that Williams. No Red Bull as the DRS on the inside line goes that Williams, but the switch back from the Red Bull could be effective. Oh, they go flying over the cab. That is interesting, and also that's the perk of that's a perk of, you know, having no damage, having no underbody damage. That allows them to jump, and Roy really jumped on the exit of that chicane and really almost overtook him in the air there. Did Roy as he loses out and falls in P8 behind one of the Ferraris now. David in P5 still stuck there behind Thomas. Thomas is going to try and defend or even attack the Red Bull ahead, but I think David always finds his way to move forward, and the Ferrari is going to run wide. Brad's going to be moving back into P6, or already into the top 6 of race, trying to get back to the top 5 as Techno now leads from Fem currently at the moment. Techno leads on lap 3 out of 5, definitely could be switching, and it sure will be switching as the DRS is going to be available, as Pam is going to be on the way, as now Roy has even lost out to Mike, but Mike's going to have that DRS. He's not going to have that DRS. Roy's going to have that DRS. That's definitely going to allow Mike to go through, as Pam is going to be in big pressure from Vivek there on the inside line. Pam's going to try and defend. He quite does defend, and on the inside line Thomas is going to send it on the inside of Red Bull. They're going to make contact. What a move! What a move from David there! What a move that was, because we were waiting for Thomas to try and get ahead, but then David came out of nowhere and he overtakes. Meanwhile, drivers at the back is going to be there and overtaken. Thomas almost does. Knocks out David there by getting his front wheel into the rear of that McLaren, but that was close. David already into P4 now, and David only a 10th behind the Red Bull, not far away now. He's the race leader, already finds their way. David always finding their way, and I mean, Fam is actually, Hamilton they found their way to be leading most of the Grand Prix, at least the last 2 races in Baku and in China. At least China, they led for a long time, but still just about not enough to take that lead or win the race. Of course, they definitely led, but not for enough time, but not enough so they could win. Meanwhile, Roy is having problems at the back. He's not at the start at all. Our leader, of course, our not leader, but owner and manager, currently the bottom 2 of the running cars, but that is Fam, 1.3 seconds. Meanwhile, that Red Bull's going to be on the inside line. He sends it and goes on the inside line of that Sauber, but that Sauber driver is going to go into the back of that Red Bull, front wing into the rear of that Red Bull, and David is now going to be putting in that Sauber in big pressure as well with the help of that DRS, the rear wing opening. Meanwhile, Breds is trying everything he can, but Thomas's challenge is pretty hard for him. He's going to go around the outside. This one's going to be side by side. He's not going to be able to go through around the outside at all. And what a performance by these drivers it has been so far. And oh god, the stream's not slow at the moment. I've just apparently my PC wanted to open some unnecessary things, but there we go. We should be back on it as we are on lap 5 out of 5, as now 1.3 seconds he leads by. He needs the race win. He wants to end the night as a champion, and definitely that's going to be interesting. That I don't know whether the Constructors' Championship is there or not, but if that is. McLaren's going to be at the top. McLaren's going to be exiting in the lead of the Constructors' Championship. Meanwhile, drivers at the back are going to be there fighting, and Swamp finally getting to there, and David's in P6. David's not inside the top 3 for the first time pretty much, as now Swamp's going to go on the inside line, but no, round the outside. Brett's just going to be able to defend, and round the outside is going to be forward as the Ferrari is going to go super wide. That might allow the Cyber to get through. That might allow the Cyber driver to be on the way. He's going to get that DRS in the rear wing. He's going to be opening on his way and in his favour. Meanwhile, the gap has increased over 2 seconds now, and a very good job done. Very well job done by Pham after fighting for the race lead, after leading for most of the time in China. Couldn't quite convert it, but finally Abu Dhabi is the track that is going to convert that lead into the race win, and Hamilton wins the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix with the back in P2. Brett finds himself on another podium in P3. Swamp in P4 with Techno in P5. David, I think worst finish of the night for in P6. And then comes Thomas in P7 with Mike in P8 just ahead of Roy. And that, ladies and gentlemen, was the end of the season opening event for League of MVP and return of MVP to the world of esports racing and to the world of F1 25. Hope you all watching really enjoyed all of the action, as we're going to read out the final race result and get to the end of the stream now, as it's Pham who won here in Abu Dhabi. That came in second place with Brett in P3, George, then Swamp in P4. Oh, I think Swandra might be Swamp. So in P4, then comes Techno in P5, David in P6. First race probably that he couldn't finish inside the top 3. Thomas in P7, then Mike just getting another point for himself in P8. Then came Roy in P9. That then, ladies and gentlemen, is going to mark the end. T1 of League of MVP. Hope you all watching really enjoyed this. As I said, of course, it was only Event 1. As we move forward, we're only going to get better, and we're only going to be moving front and get ahead of all the thinkings. And if you're new around here, make sure to like, subscribe, and turn the bell icon on for you to get notifications for brand new streams. It was myself, Zabi, here, and I hope you all really had fun, and we'll be catching you next week with another 5-lap racing championship fight. Peace, and I'm out. See you soon on the next one.